Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and this is how to create a 3D endless runner in Unity, and welcome to episode 10. In this tutorial we are going to focus on updating how far we've run inside our level, and we're also going to bring in some background music as well. Don't forget, click the subscribe button and click on the bell icon as well to stay up to date with every tutorial still to come in this series and everything else on game development on my channel. With that in mind, let's get to work. So we're going to start with the background music, just to give this a little more something rather than just silently running and then a ding whenever we collect coins. So let's go to our audio folder and let's click and create a new one. And we'll call this one just BGM. That's short for background music. And I'm going to drag and drop an audio clip, which you can get on my website if you head over there. Go to Downloads and Assets and go to the Endless Runner series. And tutorial 10, you can download it. Just make sure you unzip it before you try importing it into Unity. Now, I'm fairly certain this is going to be quite loud, so we're going to go through a couple of things with this just to make sure it seems okay. So what we'll do is we will create a new game object, an empty one, and we'll have this one just as, we'll just call it BGM. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this. You could put it on the camera or something to that effect if you wanted to, but I'm going to contain it inside this object just because a little later on it might make things a little easier whenever we have different characters. So all we're going to do is drag and drop the desert BGM onto here. Now, we do want it to play on awake because we want to play as soon as the level starts, and we do want to loop it. As I said, it might be quite loud, so for now I'm going to reduce the volume to 0.1 and just see how that sounds, and we might play with the pitch to see how it best suits whatever we're playing. So let's press play. So that's not too bad for me. It might be a little bit loud on the video, but let's increase the pitch. That doesn't quite fit. And lowering it doesn't fit either. So for me, I may keep it as 1. Now, if you played the Timmy and Mousy game, you may have noticed that whenever you play a level and end up back at the main menu, it does play the background music of the level you've just been in, but lower pitch. And don't worry, we will get round to that cool effect a little later on. For now, though, I'm going to reduce it a little further, just so you can still hear me and not be overpowered by the music. And hopefully that should seem pretty decent now. Yeah. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So next what we're going to look at is the distance displaying on the screen, and we're going to use a similar effect to what we did with the coins to updating that. There is one thing I'm not entirely sure whether I want to change just yet, and that's just how fast we are currently running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the player move script, and you may have changed it already, you may have sped it up, you might have even slowed it down. Who knows? It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to touch on something now to kind of prepare for the future, because we are going to increase the speed a little later on. And I want it to kind of feel right with the music at the same time as well. So what we may do is let's increase the move speed to 5 for now and resave it. Head back into Unity, and I'm also going to change it here as well, just so as it does actually set it to 5. And let's see how this now looks. Okay, I think that's a little bit better, so I'm going to keep mine as 5. So how do we make it so as we can judge how far we've gone? Well, the good thing is we don't necessarily have to be entirely accurate, because this is our world and we can judge just how far we're actually running. So we can set a time which will increase along with the speed that we're running a little later on, so as both of those numbers do stay in sync. So for now, let's just focus on creating the UI that will display our runner, our distance I should say, and then we'll work on the script for it. So let's go to our canvas and double click. And let's take what we've already got in place for the coins, which is the coin display. So if we hold Control, press D to duplicate, and I'm going to use the rect tool just to bring it down and keep it in line. About there maybe. And I think I may decrease the size. Should we? I think I'll keep the coin count there, but it's not likely that we're going to change much in the way of distance. In fact, we'll keep it at the same size for now instead of wasting time. So let's have this as distance display. And I think this coin image should really go inside the coin display, but I will duplicate that image and bring it into distance display and just bring it down to about there. And I'm going to bring in a texture. So if we go to our textures folder and let's bring in this running icon. And again, you can get it from the same zip folder on my website. Now we just need to set this over here, texture type, and set it to sprite. And then let's click on generate bitmaps and then click on apply. And just like the coin, it will make it so it is theoretically a PNG, and we can see through the deleted bits of the image, as also it's smoother on the edges. So what we need to do is click on our image and just replace the gold coin with our running man. And we should be able to see in the game view, there we go. So how do we make it now so as this coin count, which needs to be changed to, I'll just call it DIS count, and we'll have this as DIS border. How do we make it so as this updates with how far we're running? Well, like I said, it's similar to how we've done the coins. So if we go to our scripts and go to environment, and is it environment or is it going to be collectibles? I'm thinking we should class it as a collectible because ultimately we're going to keep track of just how far we've run in total throughout our game. So I think we should class it as a collectible. So let's right click, create C# script, and we'll call this one level distance. And let's open that up in Visual Studio. So let's establish what we need to do here. We need to add in a namespace because we're going to be using some UI. We need to declare a variable for the UI displaying. We also need a variable to count just how far we have run. So let's start with a namespace. At the top, let's go using Unity engine.ui. And let's get rid of the annotations. We don't need them, as well as void start. And let's start with our first variable. So that's going to be public game object, and it's going to be the actual text that we display. So let's have this as DIS display. And next we will have an integer to count just how far we've run in meters. So public int dis run, again dis is short for distance. Next, we also need a boolean to tell whether we are currently adding to our distance or not. So we can say public bool adding dis, and by default that will be false. So hopefully already you should be able to see the process of what is going to happen here. We're going to have an if statement that says if we are not already adding distance, then we need to add a meter at every certain interval. And speaking of which, we are going to add in another variable a little later on in this tutorial, but for now we're just going to get one set in place. So let's start in our update method and say if adding dis equals false, then we do the following. And we're going to need to start a coroutine after we've set adding dis equals true. So let's now go below our update method and start creating a coroutine. So I enumerator, and as always, don't let it autofill because it may go to IEnumerable, which is something completely different. So I enumerator adding dis, open close bracket, open curly bracket, and first things first, we will say dis run plus equals 1. So that will add 1 meter or 1 whatever you want to class as your distance. And at that point, we then need to update on screen the number itself. So we can say dis display dot get component in spiky brackets text open close bracket dot text equals double quote as always, because whenever we're dealing with just a number, we have to put this double quote because it's expecting some text. So if we put the double quote, it's theoretically already text. And then plus dis run semicolon. And now what we do is we add in a waiting period. So yield return new wait 4 seconds. For now, I'm just going to put 0.25f, close bracket, semicolon, but we are going to change that a little later on, so as when we can change our running speed. And now we just need to put adding dis equals true, semicolon, and that will pretty much complete, at least basically, the coroutine. Obviously, we're going to add a lot more in as we get further into development, but for now, it will serve its purpose. Next, let's add in the ability to start that coroutine. So back in the update method, we type in start coroutine, and in brackets the name of our coroutine we've just written. In my case, it is adding dis, open close bracket, semicolon, and save. Now, in its simplest terms, this will add to our running speed, but obviously it's very static at the moment because we're only adding every 0.25 seconds, but our running speed isn't changing anyway. So let's see how this looks in Unity when we bring it over and add in the variables. So we need to put this on level control. So let's go on level distance and bring it over here. And dis display is going to be that dis count. So now, if we press play, okay. So what's happened there is we have accidentally put that as true, or I have accidentally put that as true when it should be false. So you can see it did it once, but then obviously because it's not cycling back around for this, it doesn't do it again. So if we change that to true, press play once again, we should see the count go up. Cool. So I'm going to say that's meters. So is that really counting as meters right now? That's what we need to understand. I think that's a little bit too fast counting, at least to start with. So I'm going to change that to 0.35, save, and see how that counts. Like I say, we can change that in the future as we get more and more into development. Yeah, I think that'll do for now. So the last thing we're going to do is preparing for the future. We're going to add in another variable, which is going to be a float. So public float, and we'll call this dis delay. In fact, we'll make it equal to 0.35f and a semicolon. And eventually this will become static so we can modify it from other scripts. But for now, let's change that 0.35f to dis delay and save. And it should work the exact same as it has just done previously for us. Let's just make sure. Excellent. I'm happy with that. So, next tutorial, what we're going to do is we are going to add in a fading in screen. So whenever we start the game, it fades into our game and then counts down 3, 2, 1 before we can have control and before our distance starts counting, before we can collect coins. And yeah, that'll be when our game starts. So that is coming in the next tutorial. Hopefully I will see you there. Thanks very much for watching, guys.